What's up, everybody? It's another episode of Against.The.Galaxy podcast. I got me and my boys here with me. We're ready to talk about Galactics and all the stuff we got leading up to this big tournament that's been occupying a lot of our time. But before I get into all that, let's start with the introductions. I got Mike with me.
What's up?
I got Nicky.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And we got Eric with us.
Hey everyone.
Nick wasn't able to join us, but he's sending his love and spirit, and he'll be with us next time for sure. So before we get into all that, just a quick reminder, don't forget the social medias. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, reach out to us on Discord. We're all over the place. We love interacting with you guys. Leave the comments down in the bottom of the YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. We want to keep growing this podcast. We're doing it with your help, and it's been a lot of fun so far, and we want to keep it going. So, this slide's a little bit funny. We all pre-released this weekend. We all went to a few of them, and one of them we ended up all making it out to the same one and finishing 1 through 5. It was a pretty good time. You guys want to talk about your pre-release experience?
Yeah, I thought pre-release was really fun. I enjoyed the format for sure. I did 3 pre-releases. I played Kit Fisto Yellow, then Quagon Red, I want to say, and then Kanan Green. The force mechanic is pretty cool. When you use it, you definitely get to do some powerful stuff with it, but I feel like I got lucky with my pool, and I was able to build decent decks, especially the Sunday one, where I went 4-0 with Kanan Green. The deck was insane. A lot of great pulls. I'm sure we'll talk more about that later on. But yeah, didn't really pull great legendaries. 3 pre-releases, I pulled 3 Quagons, so I would play set up those at least. But it was fun.
I absolutely love Limited. I love playing it any chance I get in any card game, and Star Wars is no different. I had a lot of luck actually. I went to this one pre-release and I pulled a showcase Kifisto, so I wanted to try it. I instantly lost that first round. I started 0-1, and I was like, yeah, no, I'll play a real leader, and I got my Snoke pool, and then went out from there. So, ton of fun. A lot of different things that you can build around. I don't think Kit Fisto's particularly good, which we'll talk about soon, but it was fun to do some different things. Obviously, pulling a showcase is pretty cool, so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I got to go to 2 pre-releases this past weekend. The first pre-release, I played Talzin Red, and my pool was like insane. I had 3 Talzin's Assassins, an old Daka, and like a couple decent rares in my colors. So that deck was sweet. My only loss was Will, which I'm not very happy about, but it'll be okay. And then my second pre-release, I started out 0-1 with some Cal Kestis green deck. Obviously, I didn't want to play Cal because I don't think he's very good in limited or constructed, but I thought that's where my pool was leaning, was like a little bit more aggressive of a yellow deck. But I just got stomped out in round 1, and it was really off the back of Cal just doing nothing on my leader flip turn, since his body was so unimpactful. So I re-examined my pool and ended up playing Snoke Blue, which didn't have as many good cards in the pool, but the leader was just so much more impactful, and I had a good enough curve that I then went 3-0 from there out. So I went 3-1 in both pre-releases, and like Mike said, I love Limited. I felt like the format is great, and I play Limited any chance I get.
Yeah, pre-release was a lot of fun. I did all 3. I went 2-2 on Friday and Sunday, and then this one where I went 3-1. That was probably my best deck by far. I had Obi-Wan, I had Yoda, and I was just able to do some really broken things. I mean, like the other guys are saying, Limited is awesome time. You don't have to worry about all the prep work that goes into, picking a constructed deck and sideboarding perfectly. You open up cards and you let your skills and your luck really decide the tournament, which is a good time. Pre-releases are fun. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've been going to them for Magic pretty much any chance I get. most of my Magic experience is slowed down to a crawl, but I'll still pop out for a pre-release just because it's a good time and you don't necessarily need to be super invested into it. It's a good jumping off point for new players. They're able to come play in this like lower stakes environment where it's a lot more forgiving for some of our mistakes, and you're in a room where even some of the more experienced players don't remember exactly how to read their cards and start playing them a little incorrectly. I think Mike and Eric had that experience.
Yeah, I was gonna tell me about it.
Yeah, I got to learn
But
what Snoke did. If we want to transition here, we have some of the better leaders. I think Snoke is a very good card. But he was even better when I played against Eric because the part where it says friendly villain units was not on my card. It just said friendly units, so all my stuff was just getting experience counters every turn, and I was like, Snoke's great. Like, why do you even want to try and play Kit Fisto? This is broken. And then,
Snoke and Quinlan are very strong together if they work together.
yeah, my Quinlan is 6 power with Snoke counters on. I was like, dude, this is broken. This pool's insane. And then after the game, he comes over, he goes, you know you're cheated, right? And I go, what are you talking about? He goes, I just walked over there, and they pointed out that it wasn't a villain unit that the guy was trying to target. I was like, yeah, I definitely cheated then. We were like, all right, guess I'm not doing that again. But the deck still
and
worked out. I still
look,
went 3-0 from there, but it was
any
definitely cool.
You had that Mystic Witch, the 1/3 that you put down for 1, and then it was instantly a 2/3, and then it was a 3/4, and then a 4/5. It was just snowballing like crazy. I had no way to deal with it.
We've been playing all of these leaders too, like testing and doing all that kind of stuff too. Like, it just goes to show you got to really focus, especially playing with new cards and paper for the first time.
I guess in our testing, when you're playing with Snoke, you're only playing with villainy units because you're really trying to capitalize on the ability. So it does kind of go by the wayside, and you stop thinking about the fact that you have non-villainy units in your deck when you wouldn't have when you're building a constructed deck. So that happens. Limited's definitely just a different environment. And it's a lot of fun. Like the differences in some of the cards that are like super strong in constructed are just like limited whatever cards, or some cards that are just like I'm not even really thinking about this card as a serious consideration, and it turns out just in limited the card's insane.
Yeah, that's mostly because of like some of the more powerful cards in constructed are synergy based and require you build around them. When in limited, you're not going to get the chance to do so, and you're just going to play whatever pool of good commons and uncommons you get. So if you really need to build a high synergy deck for a card to be good, that card's often not going to be good. You just want the best stats at the best rate that you can get in limited most of the time.
Yeah, for sure. Like I noticed Eric playing when he was playing Qui-Gon leader, like the ability to just bounce and replay stuff, like getting extra enter the battlefield abilities, even as minor as they were in limited, is so powerful. And then like when we tried to build that deck and construct it, it was like, well, you can't really run a tight enough ship to compete with some of the other decks. So while it might be fun and cool, it's too slow, it's too clunky. But it's not too slow and too clunky and limited.
Which is kind of a cool aspect of the game. You get to play these other leaders that you're really not going to play in constructed because of the limitations we just talked about. But they're still powerful enough in limited where you can play them and have fun. Qui-Gon was a blast. I was playing ambush units, bouncing him, and then playing an ambush unit that costs less and just killing two things. It was really fun.
Yeah, and I mean, just think about it like when you open up your prize packs, like you pretty much scroll right past your commons and uncommons and just check out your rare. And like those cards are designed for a reason. Like FFG does spend a lot of time balancing this out and creating all these different cards and different units. And the fact that the majority of the time we're just kind of scrolling right past all that, it's just a nice like change of pace to be able to like stop and appreciate all the different commons and uncommons that we wouldn't necessarily be thinking about, but end up being just a ton of fun to play with in the like slightly lower powered environment.
Another leader that I was fun playing with was Kit Fisto. My pool had maybe 7, 8 Jedi's, and a bunch of them were like lower on the curve. So I was pinging with him. Um, 2-3 times each game and was taking out units. Uh, I learned early that I really shouldn't flip him because then he just doesn't die and you never get to use him again. Um, but yeah, no, he was pretty good. The front ability is definitely strong if you can get those early Jedi's.
I didn't play any games with Kit Fisto this past weekend, but like every time I played against him, I was just so not worried the entire time. Like they pinged me a couple times, and in limited, like there's going to be random damage laying around and random resources that go unspent. So I get like Kit being good, being able to finish that up, but a big part of limited is just having the best stats at the best rate, and you want your leader flip to be something powerful. One of the reasons my Cal deck fell apart, like I'd mentioned, was like Kit Fisto's body just does nothing. He's a 1/6 that like maybe grows to a 2/6 or a 3/6. I don't really think you're getting past a 3/6. So it's just like he's really kind of a do nothing on his unit side, which left me pretty unimpressed. But I do agree his front side is can be good if you have the correct
Yeah, I
tool.
mean, you can get them bigger than a 2/6 or whatever, but those are the games where you have multiple Jedi like staying out on the board, and at that point, like you're winning that game. You know what I mean? It's just a card that's only good when you're already ahead, at least on its unit side. So I mean, he was one of my leaders for one of my pre-releases, and I didn't have the presence of mind or really decide to just stop and rebuild my deck. I just powered through it, and it was not as much fun as Eric was having for sure.
I mean, you need those early Jedi's to get those early pings going, and you gain a lot of tempo that way. I had the both 3/3 Jedi's, the one that does damage when he comes in when you have the initiative, and the one that lets opponent discard a card when it dies. So I was gaining even more tempo that way. And it was yellow. So then once I got further down, I was curving into Qui-Gon and the 5/7 ambush or 6/7 ambush, whatever that Jedi is. And it came to a point where I flipped Kit Fisto on like 8 resource turn and played 3 Jedi's from hand and finished him off for 4. So that happens, which is interesting. He's the flip side is rough because I had games where I flipped them and they were completely ignoring them because I didn't have a Jedi, and that was actually the game I lost. They were playing against Talzin. Can't remember the other color, but I was playing Talzin, and he had the 6/6 witch that buys back another witch, and he had 2 -3/-3 witches. So he was just going nuts with that and decimated all my Jedi's, and my Kit Fisto was just there, lonely, standing, doing nothing.
I mean, you had a really good pool. That's a big part of it. I'm still not certain that that wouldn't have just been a better deck with Qui-Gon as the leader and a red base. Because if you have that many Jedi, that mean you'd have the Force a bunch. You get a bunch more of those interplay abilities. I don't know. I was not impressed with Kit Fisto. I didn't. The leader side very good, as long as you have enough Jedi. But he didn't impress me. But one thing that's real interesting about this pre-release weekend that's different from the other ones is there are rumors going around that we will have limited PQs for the next season. Obviously, these aren't verified. This is just some random on the internet who's kind of dropping hints at it. But if we do see limited planetary qualifiers next set, is that something you guys are excited for? Do you guys think that this is a good format that we'd have some really fun competitive tournaments? I would assume that they'll do them somewhat like other card games have done in the past, where we'll have sealed for the Swiss period and then a top 8 draft. For these cards, you're looking for, or you're looking forward to battling for your next invite with. Is that something you guys like?
I'm not sure. Looking at this kind of graphic we have, it looks at a glance that most of the really good cards are in blue and green in terms of leaders, and I think there's a lot of good just generic cards in blue and green that aren't leaders. So if your pool is kind of lacking those cards, I can see it being very difficult to do well in a sealed. So that would kind of really suck if you pull like, oh, I have a good like Qui-Gon red deck, but I don't get to play Mother Talzin and all of the Night Witches that are killing all my things and getting more value than I can get just because they opened a better pool. So I think they've hit it better with some other limited formats. I thought Jump to Lightspeed was pretty good when I drafted it at least. So I would be more interested in the draft aspect than like a sealed. But that's just me personally. I think it's a lot easier to show your skill expression as a player if you're getting to draft the cards and build your deck on the fly and knowing what your leaders are, as opposed to you get 6 packs and are at the fate of the packs. Driving 10 hours to get 6 bad packs would be pretty terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree, but I think the logistics of running a full draft PQ or any other event that's larger than a pre-release sounds kind of miserable. Like, if you have a 100-player PQ, you have to figure out how to like fairly have a bunch of 8-player draft pods, and then make sure like no one's cheating because you're actually putting stakes on this now. So it's like pretty tough. So I understand why you would want to have the Swiss period be limited and then have top 8 be a draft like Magic does, but I am with you, Mike, that there are going to be a lot of feels bads if you play competitive limited and your pool is bad and you just end up having a rough day and there's not much you can do about it.
The only way having limited PQs or regionals or sectors that would make sense is if there is limited at Worlds. If that's going to be a category at Worlds, then yeah, you need to be able to play that to qualify. I think that's completely fine. But if that's not going to be an event at Worlds, I don't think having limited as a means to qualify, at least for PQs, to qualify for Worlds through the PQs unlimited, it kind of makes no sense. For regionals and sectors, those feel like more of a special tournament. Is not really just for the invite, but it's just that's a massive tournament in itself. So maybe having the limited Swiss and then draft top 8 would be kind of cool. I would go to one of those. I would do it, but there's the feel bads of, hey, my pool sucks and I have to play with bad cards or just a bad deck. And there's also, like Nicky was saying, the how do you prevent cheating? Uh, do you have cards that are already open and pools already created by the judges and then you write things down like they did in some of the other games? Or like it just seems like a mess. So I don't know how they would do it. But
I mean,
ideas.
we have a blueprint for this. This has been done countless times throughout Magic. You know what I mean? Whether it be registering a pool and then passing the pool, there are ways to do that pretty efficiently without cheating. Provided you have a reasonable judge staff, which, I mean, this game has definitely been a little all over the place with the judging, but that's only because it's so new. I wouldn't be really overly concerned about that as something going forward. It's kind of interesting the way you were saying it, though. I'd be more hesitant towards a sealed like sector or regional than I would be a PQ. Um, just because the sectors and regionals, that's a whole trip. Like that's me spending an entire weekend. I'm taking time off work. I'm setting up travel plans as opposed to just like, all right, I'm gonna spend my day doing this PQ. So the bad pool feels bad would be much worse for me in those.
Right, but
But
being one of those tournaments, you have side events that are going on. There's other stuff happening that even if you do have a bad pool, yeah, the main event sucked, but there's other stuff going on. While you drive to a
that's a good
PQ in
point.
a couple hours, you have a bad pool, you're done. You're just there waiting or going home early.
Well, I guess we'll have to add to the draw good and don't get blown out to pull good and don't get blown out.
Rule number 3.
I think it's an exciting opportunity. I think regardless of if limited is in Worlds or not, I don't think that really changes my opinion on whether or not we should have limited PQs. I think it's another way to enjoy the game. Um, limited is something that is definitely designed for, and we've spent an entire year of Star Wars without really being able to enjoy the limited format in a competitive environment. So it's just it adds more depth to the game. It creates more things for more players, and I think it'll grow the game significantly, given the opportunity to have higher level competitive events where you didn't need to have a constructed deck that you've spent all this time for. I mean, I know we know a lot of like not I don't want to call them just casuals because I think they would show up to PQs like this, but they just don't feel as invested into the meta of Star Wars and they don't necessarily like the top meta decks and therefore they just don't engage with the game competitively. Whereas a limited environment, they're like, hey, you know what I mean? I might open 6 good packs and be able to go on a run and qualify for Worlds, and that's an exciting thing to them, and it opens the door for them.
And then they have to do something that they don't enjoy doing. Like it's a planetary qualifier. You're qualifying for the main event. So if you have to be playing the same game that you're going to be playing there.
I qualified for the Magic Pro Tour playing Pauper. People qualify playing Legacy, and they're never going to get to play those things on the Pro Tour in Magic. It's never been an issue before. I don't really see it as an issue for it in Star Wars. I just don't see the difference.
I know we're a little past it, but I just want it out there. I actually don't know if I think I'm getting more and more turned off by the idea of PQs and sectors being limited because thinking harder about it, limited has not been very good in terms of leaders being such a shift and influence on your pool as opposed to the cards you pull. Like other card games where you don't have a leader, you can get good like kind of commons and uncommons of certain colors and then you might be able to play 3 colors or not have to worry about that aspect penalty. You just like are kind of diluting your deck by playing more lands in Magic, right? In Star Wars, if you don't get a good leader, you're just screwed too. Like if you're a leader pool, they'll give you Maul and Qui-Gon, which is like fine. But if your other leaders are like you pull 2 Kit Fistos, you can't really play red anyway, so there goes your Darth Maul. You get a Cal and like 2 Cal Kestis, like just randomly. I know that's a really low chance of it happening, but you get like a Kanan, but you have no creatures inspectors. You get Obi-Wan, but your force units aren't great. Like that's such a massive influence where in other limiteds we had like the CAD meta, like you had to pull CAD in the pre-release to do well. You had like even the red Luke pilot from Jump to Lightspeed. Like I thought if you weren't playing that or like Von Reg was pretty good or um
Vader.
Vader was very good. If you didn't pull anything in that realm, like you're just screwed. So I think maybe if all the leaders were available to everybody, maybe that would really spice it up and make your pulls kind of less impactful in that way, where you could really just play the best deck you had with the best leader and best base. So I don't know if there's really a clean way to fix that issue, but I think that is a major issue in Star Wars is the effect of the leader on the game and having to get the right pool plus the right leader.
I saw a post online today where somebody, I mean, they were getting flamed for the idea, but they were saying that if we have access to every common base, maybe we should have access to every common leader as well. I think that would kind of open the door. It would still keep some of the rare leaders as special, but it would open the door to more options and probably give a closer experience to what you're talking about.
Yeah. Also, to add on to Mike's point of if you get bad leaders, you're just in a bad spot. He had mentioned that you can use Qui-Gon and Maul, but that's actually only on pre-release weekend. Is if you go to any other sealed event, I'd also assume including PQs, those aren't available to you. So it's actually just even worse that you don't have like two baseline decent leaders to play from, is you can just get your entire pool bricked by if you pull a couple bad leaders.
Yeah, that was my Thursday pre-release. I mean, you're saying it's rare, but I did open 2 Kit Fistos, 2 Kylo Rens, and I couldn't even tell you what the other 2 leaders were, but they weren't very good either. And my whole pool was just kind of jammed up. Like I lucked into going 2-2 at that pre-release for sure, just because, and that was strictly on the back of the leaders not being powerful enough. Bygone and Maul, like those are still yellow heroic and red villainy. Like those are still specific colors, and sometimes you just don't have access to those colors with your pool. All right, Mike's convinced me. I don't think I want this anymore. I think it would be fun, but the leader aspect definitely shifted the way I'm thinking about it now, and I think it might introduce a little bit too much variance to tournaments with stakes.
I don't know. I don't think I would see any like true downside to offering them as long as they're not, the only thing available. Is if the PQ season is, say 100 constructed PQs and maybe even say more, say 120 constructed PQs, and then the remaining 30 are limited. So every couple weekends, you have the chance to play limited if you want. I really wouldn't have the problem with that because at that point, it's your choice on if you want to play constructed or if you want to play limited. Like we said,
I think
there's a
30 might be
division.
too.
Yeah, maybe 30 is too many, but like we'd said, there's a division between the number of the group of people that like to play Premier and then a smaller group of people that like only play draft or like play more casually. Um, so getting them to take like a first step into like a truly competitive environment would be a good thing.
Yeah, I think we would actually just need to dramatically increase the number of total PQs because I think 30 isn't too many. I think it's probably too few because you figure over the course of the season, I mean, that's 30 across, the US, Canada, Europe, all these places. That wouldn't end up being very many that are within reasonable distance. Like you might only have one opportunity to go to one within a few hours. If we get to a point where PQs, I don't want them quite as crazy as RCQs have gotten for Magic, but if most stores end up getting one, if there's say 300 over the course of a season instead of 150, we have a couple local stores that have gotten some for some seasons and not others for other. Like if those stores just always got one, that wouldn't be the end of the world. We'd see lower turnouts at them. They'd be less special, and maybe they need to change the way the point system is going to work or the invite system would work. But I think that would give the opportunity just to more people. And I think the more people that are engaging with the game at a competitive level is going to be better. You want to create that itch in people because that's really what gets people. I mean, we're hooked. We're competitive players. Like we're really into this. Like some of the more casual players that don't think they are, once they get a taste of winning, might start chasing stuff down.
Yeah, I think trying things out is a good place to be for FFG, and they have a willingness to try new things. And if this is something people say they want and they try it out and it doesn't work, I don't really see the downside to that necessarily, unless they take a big hit monetarily. But I think there's ups and downs, positives, negatives to any move, any change you do. I think trilogies is an example of, again, something people will say that we want, and I'm interested in it. Maybe it breaks and other people don't like it, so I like mixing it up. I like the changes, and I think we'll just have to let time tell if this is going to materialize or not.
Since we're talking about pretend formats, and we think trilogy is going to be the eternal format, or there's going to be like an eternal premiere format, just regular premiere, but all the cards are available that were ever printed.
I think there's going to be eternal premiere, like a legacy.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much all but confirmed. It didn't sound like Trilogy was replacing that. It was just going to be something in addition to. I think the only reason we haven't gotten more information on the Eternal format is because we're not even that close to rotation yet. We're still 6 months out. So, and then even at rotation, the Eternal format won't necessarily be anything new. It'll just be like, hey, if you want to keep playing your old decks, you can play this way.
I guess that makes sense.
So moving on from pre-release, we got a big tournament coming up, and this is what we're thinking so far. Coming up on Vegas, we don't have any big tournaments leading up to the event. We're not going to have any PQ results. We're not going to have any, sectors or regionals or anything that we can get top 8 results from, where we can get meta breakdowns. So everybody's guessing. And this is where we think we're expecting the meta to end up being. Just to go down the list real quick, we think Han 2 is probably going to be the most prominent based on what we're hearing. Whether that's blue or green is still very much up in the air. Whether that's the force or no force is still very much up in the air. There's a lot of powerful things that are available, especially with the red like base and Han, and being able to play that stuff above curve is definitely very good. We got blue-green villainy. Nicky's probably a little bit upset that Kira's not alone in this list. Kylo Ren is kind of taking over as like the new hot toy for blue-green villainy, especially with its ability to ECL, and with the new Vader, it's been pretty strong. It does some unique things, and I think people are having fun with that deck, so I think we will see a pretty good amount of it. All these Tarkentown decks going around, like Quinlan and Cad, we expect them to have a pretty good portion of the meta just because we expect Han to be a big portion of the meta. So if people are reacting to that, those Ping and Tarkentown decks really can punish Han's ability to play above curve. And when you're doing that, take away a lot of the power of Han. So we think those decks will probably have a decent matchup into him. And then finishing out, we got decks that we think are just kind of be sticking around, but we don't necessarily think will be some of the best. I'm sad to say Sabine is not in the top 3, in our opinion. I love the deck. I think it's still powerful, but I think some of the new stuff that people are doing is just kind of knocking it down a peg, and we'll see. I'm not ready to call it a dead deck yet, but we got Vader 4 yellow, which really capitalizes on the space lanes. I know Bothan Network has been really high on that deck, so I would expect a pretty large representation, even if it's only that team, because I think there's 600 of their players. So they'll just have a lot of Vader yellow players there, even if they're the only team on it. Talisman Red being a new one that we think. I've been seeing a lot of it in people talking and stuff. I don't know how good it actually is. My games with it didn't feel like it was a deck that I wanted to play, but some people are really into that stuff, and there's definitely a lot of value units, and you're able to kind of get your value train rolling. It can be a real good deck. And then just finishing it out, we got the grindy heroic decks, whether it be Rey, Obi-Wan, whatever. Whether that ends up being Adavalt decks, whether that ends up being Force decks between those two. Those colors just have a lot of ability to stall the deck out, get to their big units, and then just start playing crazy stuff. So what are you guys thinking about this meta? Is this something you're looking forward to playing in? You think this list is accurate? You think we got any mistakes on here?
I know we've been talking about the deck a ton in just our team chat about Kylo in Blue-Green Villainy. I think it is one of the worst decks. And maybe that's just my testing with it. Maybe that's just the way I've played it. But I do not see the excitement to play Kylo over Kira, especially with ECL and him being a later flip. I don't get it at all. And somebody will have to explain it to me and maybe even just beat the crap out of me in Vegas with it to show me that the deck is good. But I think that that's one of the most fake meta decks. I don't think we're going to see a lot of it. I think we'll mainly see Kira. I think I'll see more Iden than Kylo, honestly, or Director Krennic.
Wonder if Kylo turns into the new Gar Saxon, where like everybody's telling me that it's a real deck, but I just don't even see it in practice. And then when I do see it, I just run it over and then don't see it again for 3 months.
Yeah, nah, like I think those are some pretty crazy takes. is like coming into the set, I was pretty low on Kylo, but I've been hanging around in the Kylo ECL channel in the KTOD Discord for the past couple days just because it's blue green villainy. Like, what's not to like there? And they're kind of getting me. Like, I don't think I'm gonna end up playing it, but the deck looks sweet as hell, and um, there's a lot of cute lines that you can get going there, whether that be playing some off aspect lightsabers to get Anakin going, or you know, bringing back all of your upgrades and having basically like an unkillable Kylo. If you legal authority and take one of their guys and craving power, kill another. Like Kylo's flip turn can be very impactful. Yes, it's late, but if you can get it to go off, it is very good. Again, like being in a force throw meta, I'm a little less excited about decks that are kind of all in on their leader. Seeing as if you force throw a crate dragon at it, it just dies a majority of the time. But I gotta say, I'm a lot higher than I was coming into the set on this Kylo deck. It looks like there might be something there, and I know there's a lot of people that are waiting to try to prove those haters wrong. So maybe they'll get a foot in your mouth.
I mean, legal authority puts him at what, 8? So all you need is 2 more, so that there's your craving power. Now you can't forbid.
Nah, legal authority's +2. It's only 7.
What's that?
Legal authority only adds 2. So Kylo
Oh.
being a 5/5, legal authority goes up to 5/7, and then craving power goes to 7/9. So a 4-star crate still kills it.
Yeah, you have to pay for every one of those upgrades. They're not free.
No, but the fact that you have a later flip turn, you have a decent amount of resources available to you. Plus, I mean, you can control which ones you cast and which ones you don't.
You just got to be real careful to not like get burned out early with this deck. Since you flip on 7, there's a lot of decks that can just like go right underneath you.
Yeah, but I mean, you're the blue-green villainy guy. Like, how many games were you really winning where you didn't make it to turn 7? Like, yes, it's late, but the way that blue-green villainy is going to play, you know what I mean, with a few removal spells and a few ramp spells, like, you do get to 7. It's not like Sabine trying to get to 7.
Yeah, but a lot of the time I was getting to 7 with the help of flipping Kira and then having something to OB off of. I mean, we talked endlessly last set of you guys were trying to figure out the best way to immediately answer Kira so I can't OB off of her. If you didn't have to do that, imagine how much easier your game would be.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, how does Kylo differ from Kira to get past that point and able to get the 7 without, that pseudo board wipe?
Well, it's 6 drop units of Anakin and Vader are extremely powerful, and both of those can just blow out a board. But even then, you're still trying to figure out a way to get to 6 without being at a critical life total. So there's some challenges to answer there, but if you can figure that part out, the deck can be very strong.
Are you
And
playing like Turret with the Force?
No, you're playing ECL, so you're not
That's right.
force.
but then you're
I've
also
seen some lists with kills and some lists with like turret just as an ATRT that can hold a saber, but there's still a lot of playing with the lists to be done, I'm sure, since there's still another 2.5 weeks until Worlds as of recording this. But yeah, that's one of the problems that I'd want to figure out to even consider.
I mean, taking 8 to your life total and waiting 2 more turns for your leader to flip and not having the board wipe just seems like just the 3 strikes you're out, and I'm not touching them with a 10-foot pole.
I don't disagree, but if we look at this list, I mean, what decks are very aggressive? There's Sabine and Vader, but we have those down in our meta share. I would assume this deck would do a pretty good job of fighting some of the mid-range decks, like Han, I guess the Ping plus Tarkin Town decks are more tempo than they are mid-range, but if you can hold them off for long enough to get to the mid-range, I'd say you have a pretty good shot there. I'm kind of still just playing devil's advocate here because I'm not likely to play the deck myself, but I think the two of you are, or maybe even the three of you, are extremely undervaluing the deck, and it does deserve a little bit more respect.
I've never been in a Kylo ECL deck, so I think the deck has something going on. I just can't figure out what.
Or you just admitted you're a bad player.
I've never admitted that.
That's not what the pre-release standing said.
It's just everyone around me is worse.
I am excited for the Ping Tarkentown decks, though. That's not really a realm that I was in prior to Set 5, but I've been kind of interested. I played a little CAD the other night against Nicky, and I had some fun. I mean, I like playing the game from the other side because I was mostly on the Sabine side of that matchup, so the pass or play a unit and kind of figuring that out. And I think I was getting a decent understanding playing against Nicky, um, and understanding like my place in the matchups and stuff like that. And I think those decks are still going to be pretty strong if you have that understanding, but they're definitely very easy to misplay, and I did do that several times when we were doing it for the first time, and I think there's a big skill gap that I didn't realize could unlock some cool things with those decks. So I'm definitely keeping an eye out on Quinlan and Cad, especially for Han 2 decks and for combating some of the other stuff in the meta.
I think those decks really reward the players who have been playing with them for a long time. I think Sabine's in a very similar spot, but those decks got better and Sabine didn't. So now those are kind of jumping up in what we expect to be the case. And if you've been a CAD player for 3 sets, like you definitely got rewarded with some of the stuff that they just printed. Same for Quinlan, having access to earlier force units in like Adigalia and even the 3/2 ship, not being a force unit, but just being a powerful unit that you can play on turn 1. It opened the door for some new lines for Quinlan where power level of that deck got a lot stronger. I guess the monkey in the room is the Han decks. Listening to some of these other content creators and in some of these chats and on Discord, it seems like that's going to be the deck to beat. I don't know which version of the deck, but between the two of them, that seems like all anybody wants to talk about. Is that something you guys are looking forward to? Like entering a Han 2 meta? I know Django meta was really like oppressive. Boba Fett meta was pretty oppressive. I'm not expecting Han to be quite at that level of, representation or anything like that, but if this is the best deck, are we happy with that? Or is that going to be something that we're going to expect some kind of shift after Worlds with maybe a ban similar to what we saw with Django?
If Han 2 is the actual best leader and you have a large share of the mana be Han 2, the deck is just going to keep getting better as new units are printed that you can cheat in earlier. So I'm sure they'll do something. They seem to keep fairly tight reins on what they want played. So, yeah, if World is 30-40% Han blue, Han twos, then yeah, they're definitely gonna.
I think the most dangerous thing about a ban potentially is what we saw with Boba more than Django, is the ability for it to play a lot of different colors at such a high level. And the fact that we still don't know if blue's going to see more percentage share or green's going to see more percentage share. And I was even playing around with a Hantu yellow deck. Like, there are a ton of different ways to take the deck because the ability is so generic. And Boba was the same way. Like, the ability was generic and very strong that you could take advantage of it. I would say Hantu's even more generic. You just put the best units in the colors that you picked, red plus whatever, and then you go, okay, that's my deck, and I'm gonna play faster than you. Like, that might be a serious problem. But I think we have to wait and see how people are trying to combat it, and we have to wait and see what color emerges as the best and if that color has weaknesses. because I mean, there's a ton of gimmicky stuff going around. I don't really know how much I'm bought into everything going in to Hantu chats, but there are definitely some things that I have found to be good, some things I found to be traps, and the last thing you want to do is be playing some kind of trap deck at Galactics that you didn't put the time into testing. So that's where I'm kind of at.
I guess I'd kind of have to be the contrarian again, but I don't think Hantu is really to be blamed for what the projected meta is to look like. I think it's forced almost entirely off of the back of Force Throw. Like I wouldn't really be playing red if it wasn't for Force Throw, because aside from Kiadi Mundi, I'm not like overly excited about the cards I'm getting from red. Hero Blue Green got a big push this set, and I think if it wasn't for Force Throw, I would be much more interested in something like a Ray, where my top end can be Home One, Keller and Beck, and Luke. But because of Force Throw being this extremely powerful card and probably even broken card, that's why you're gravitating to red. And then you go, oh, like I'm playing red, what's just generically the best leader, and that's how we backed into Han. It's not really like we decided Han's the best deck because of Han and then built around him per se.
Yeah, but in our, the more we've played with it, the more that just playing things one turn ahead of time is just very, very, very good. It's exactly what the Boba problem was, and I kind of think it Han is just a generically good leader. And yeah, you might be better off playing blue green, but I don't think you're better off not playing Han. I think things like Poe, like just being able to go, here's a 6/4 Poe on turn 4. Like maybe you can answer it. I'm not saying you can answer it, but you have to.
I mean, the biggest thing Boba really, I mean, maybe not the biggest, but one of the main differences between Hantu and Boba is Boba had an impactful flip turn. Hantu doesn't. Like maybe you don't even want to flip it on 5 and guarantee the reduction next turn. But not being able to flip your leader and just do something that really impacts the board or pushes your tempo forward in a certain way or just hinders your opponent. You really just have a 3/6 that doesn't really do anything other than it helps you cheat more units in. So having that difference maybe is not gonna put him over the top where he needs a ban. But still having like if you can play any color with him and he is a large chunk of the meta, they're gonna do something because they want other people to play with other leaders. And on the force throw thing, maybe force throw is needed to keep the blue green hero decks in check. Otherwise, everyone would just gravitate to those. So it's a balancing act.
Nah,
Yeah.
I pretty strongly disagree. I think Force Throw has kind of created this entire meta around itself, and we might be in a little bit more healthy of a place without it. But I guess we'll see come Galactics and afterwards if there's any changes what FFG thinks about it. But I've heard a lot of chatter of people saying that Force Throw is just a busted card, and I just have to agree there.
Yeah, I definitely had some lists. I mean, I haven't played them recently, but where I was playing Ray Blue and I just played Force Throw for 3 because it's just still so powerful. Like even at 3 mana. So if people start splashing it in non-red decks, that could be a real problem.
But
If
like,
Obi-Wan Blue just decides to play Force Throw, like that's going to be real good. Like it's still going to be real good in their deck.
I mean, force throw for 3 is not as troublesome, I think.
when
Yeah,
it
no,
kills a leader on the spot, it's still very, very good.
it is,
Right.
but now it's costing you 2 cards and 3 mana, whereas if you're playing it in red, you're getting Ki-Adi-Mundi with it, which lessens the drawback of you having to discard a card, and you're still only paying 1 mana. So it's 1 mana, kill anything with little downside, whereas if you play it in an off aspect deck, it's going to be 3 mana, kill anything, but there's a large drawback of discarding that card. I don't think it's as playable outside of the colors, outside of red, as you're kind of trying to make it sound.
Yeah, I can see where on their leader flip turn, say you have the initiative, you can do something, they flip, and then you have the force throw. Well, if force throw would cost 3, that's probably the only card you're playing that turn. So at 3, the card does become significantly for sure.
It's certainly worse. It's 3 times as much. I'm not advocating that it's like the same power level. I'm just saying that it may be so good that it's still worth playing. There are other decks that have the ability to take advantage of, cards in their resource or in their graveyard, discard pile, whatever it's called in this game. Things like home one. That's not exactly synergy discarding a giant unit and then trying to home one it back, but there's probably something there that I'm just not thinking of because I don't get into those decks super deep.
Discard home 1 and then salvage it back.
It's pretty good.
Oh my.
And then if they force throw you, you've got the salvage ready.
We just made a new broken deck.
I'm gonna laugh afterwards. Like, if this was just a joke and we were all riffing, like, oh, we should play salvage in our Han green, and then the winning deck list just like does that to its extreme and crushes everybody.
Could be good. A couple of the decks on here though can play force throw without paying 3 for it. I'm thinking things like Quinlan, especially House and Red. Again, if that's what you're into. There's been a couple Sabine lists going around where they lean into the force so that they can get force throw. Do you guys think the force throw is good enough to make those things good, or do you think it's really just Ki-Adi-Mundi that's really pushing it over?
I think the decks that were already playing force throw, like Quinlan, have gotten an upgrade. I guess I should stop at Quinlan and kind of mention why it's different in that deck, but that deck centers around having a lot of discard and denying your opponent access to their hand, so the discard part of that is actually relevant, whereas in some of the Han shells we've seen, it's the damage part of it, but I wouldn't go as far as saying I'd want to put Force Throw in Sabine, but I definitely still think it's good in Talzin. The card advantage is a little bit more prevalent there. You're going to notice when you have to discard yourself, but if it's still 1 mana, kill anything, or in the other scenario where it's 1 mana, deal a couple damage because you'd like discarded your opponent, and then there's now down a card, it's still going to be very good when you're doing it for 1 mana for sure.
I guess it's time for me to be a hater yet again on this podcast, but I don't think Thousand Red is good, and even playing Force Throw is like the one thing it's got going for it. And I think that's why that deck even has like a half a leg to stand on and get on our meta overview. I don't think that deck is very good. I think the fact that it gets to play Force Throw is good and has made it better because of it, but I think if that deck loses Force Throw, Towson just completely falls off the map.
I don't really disagree that like it's being propped up by Force Throw, but it does have a pretty strong flip turn where you get to use her -1 ability before you flip and then flip and get it again on attack. And there are some strong cards in that deck, like the new Darth Tyrannus, and Talzin's Assassin is even better in that deck when you have other ways to shrink things to finish them off if 3's not enough. I agree it's not, top of my priorities to test against or to test with, but I think there's something there, and it's not just a complete pile of trash.
We'll send you our exact meta share breakdown by percentage for $100. Venmo, friends and family, on PayPal.
But we are still 2 weeks away, so who knows? This meta overview, our ideas of it might shift. Maybe somebody discovers something and shares it online and it becomes the new hotness. We do still have a couple weeks. I know we don't have big tournaments, but with the way the community is, with the way the community talks, I think there's definitely still opportunity for innovation from this point on, even without the big tournaments. So we're going to keep an update on this. We'll be doing our Vegas predictions in a future episode when we, try to guess what's going to win, what's going to top 8, etc. But we definitely still got some time. This list may change around. Maybe Tal's in Red really isn't real. Maybe, Mike's just completely right about Kylo and Talzin and all these other decks. But we'll see. But that's going to bring us to the end of this episode. Thank you guys for listening. If you've made it this far, we appreciate you. Don't forget to do all the social media stuff. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter. Share us with your friends. Like, comment, subscribe on our videos. Engagement helps a lot. It helps us get in front of more faces, puts us into more feeds, and that helps us spread it. Apologies for the last episode. The audio quality was obviously subpar. That's what happens when we don't have Mike. We are very thankful that he is back and hope that he enjoyed his vacation and he never takes another one again.
I will try.
But thank you guys. That's it for us. We will see you guys next time on Against the Galaxy.
Peace.
Peace.
Later on.